You know what? I got to go back to the when you won ADCC in Brazil, because that was freaking amazing. So there's a couple things. Number one of the guys that you faced was a guy named Pedapano.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was reading, so I couldn't go down because I was in college at the time, and it was right in final exams. I literally could not go down with you. And so you were down there by yourself in Brazil, in enemy territory.
Yeah.
And you're down there, and so I'm reading. There's something called the underground. It's the mixedmartialarts.com. It's the UG, which also has the OG. So it's an old forum which still exists to this day. It used to be called Submission Fighting, and actually, you and I, when I was on deployment, like way back then, you and I would communicate. We didn't have email, so you and I would communicate on submissionfighting.com in the threads. And
the struggle.
Yeah. And so I'm reading. So what they're doing is someone is translating, like some kind of automatic translation, and they're posting what it's saying. And so it was like a literal.
The Americans in trouble.
Yeah, no, it was a literal translation. And so Pedapano means cloth foot. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's actually
it's a cartoon character or something.
Yeah.
Well, this guy Pedapano was a guy that our instructor Fabio
he's unbeatable.
Because Pedapano was this massive guy, and he was a sick black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's like, yeah, this guy will never be beaten because he's so massive and he's so good at jiu-jitsu.
No one could score a point on him. Actually,
he was just a dominator. And how is anyone going to beat somebody that's that big and that skilled? And so Dean, I'm reading. I remember I'm sitting in the parking lot of Home Depot for some reason, and the match is going on, and I'm refreshing it on my phone. And it's popping up, and it's slow. It's like back in the day, right? The reception's bad. And I'm reading it, and I remember this thing. It says the cloth foot has a choke in deep. The American must have a tube to his lungs because he is not tapping. And I was like, yes, Dean. And then you beat him, and man, you beat, and then you went on a run. That was a big deal, man.
Yeah, he beat Verdum that day, and then, in their own division, and but he cheated in that match.
Oh.
By the way, Pedapano is the only guy, he wouldn't shake my hand. I'm not talking smack. He just wasn't a very gracious, By the way, you can tell a lot about a person, how they conduct themselves when they win, and also how they lose. So, by the way, he was smashing me when the points didn't count. But he was 40 pounds heavier than me. So, big guy, 6'6", 6'7".
He's 6'6"?
Yeah, big guy.
Dang.
Yeah. It's 260, 70 pounds. Yeah, and but he won against Verdum, but he cheated. I saw the tape, and he put his arm on the. He was in a submission, out of bounds. He cheated when they restarted. So the crowd was angry at him.
In a submission, about to get tapped.
He was in trouble. He wasn't in, but he was on the verge of it being locked in. But he kind of moved his arm, so he started in a more favorable position. So that was the one match where the Brazilians were kind of cheering for me. Otherwise, no, they were cheering for the other Brazilians. But so when I won, people were.
And you beat. Happy. So who was the first match against?
First match was Nate Marquardt.
And I got him by Kimura.
Tough guy, yeah, awesome.
God, that was brutal.
Yeah, and then Saulo Ribeiro.
And then Saulo.
And Saulo was already the 5-time world champion at the time. Yeah. I was a brown belt, so it was kind of, for me, it was weird. I had less pressure in the harder division, where I was the last guy. I was number 16 of the world. It was, I don't know why, it just.
Well, you, like I said, you like to be the underdog.
Yeah, I don't. I wish I could describe what happened that day, because if I could replicate that, I don't know what happened. Eric Paulson said, Dean had a golden aura around him. I saw it. I don't see auras yet, but I'm working there. One day I want to see like that gift.
Yeah,
but
and so these guys, Saulo's like you said, 5-time world. He's just one of the best in his.
Also, his brother Janji.
And Janji's
in history, both
awesome, unbelievable jiu-jitsu players. And then it was Pedapano, and then in the finals
it was Cacareco. Alejandro Ferreira, and he's
a beast.
Yeah, he's known for. He actually was a good sport, but he had the reputation that Toquinho has today. He would hurt people. He actually footlocked Janji that day. He guillotined Comprito that day, and he beat Fabrício Verdum, also just by coincidence, the same guy, 8-0, 5-0. And then Fabrício beat Pedapano in the third, fourth match.
Oh.
So that was kind of like, I guess his payback, So he won. So it was a good day. And the finals, I was told this guy is the best guillotine in the world and the best footlocks in Brazil for sure, and he's the best wrestler in Brazil. So I'm like, I thought about it like, be careful, it's guillotine. I thought to myself, I'm not trying to act courageous, nothing like that, but I said to myself, that would really suck. And I go, maybe I could feel how his guillotine is, And so I grabbed his legs and he went for it. And I was like, let me see how it is. Not that I wanted it. I wanted to escape it. It's kind of weird.
And he wanted to play with the fire.
And I was in it, and he really, I hear the crowd yelling, and I hear the crowd get silent because he has me so tight, not over my ears, but I'm getting choked. Really, somehow I guess I'm slightly resistant to submissions. I heard, and I'm thinking I can see the light of the tunnel, and he started getting a little tired, and
you
as
had
soon
your
as
elbow on his knee.
that was technically
control.
that was the reason,
Yeah.
but I have maybe a resistant neck or something. So he eventually got tired, let go, and I saw his eyes. And he was just, I got him. I knew at that moment. And then we started in the middle, and I went for a footlock, and he was real calm on the footlock. And that 50-50, we didn't call it 50-50.
Yeah.
I said, let's try it. And I did it. And his eyes, you can see he doesn't know what's going on.
Confusion.
And he went, aye, tap. Well, more of a macho, aye. But I got him. And then, of course, I actually couldn't believe it at the moment because Abu Dhabi is, it's the equivalent of the Olympics for our sport. And there are Olympic wrestlers in Abu Dhabi. There's Sambo guys, there's Olympic judo guys, the best jiu-jitsu guys are in this. And the whole world's invited, and the winner gets 40 G's, baby. So there's no other tournament that pays that much.
How old were you?
I was 27.
Dang. That was a lot of money, man.
Well,
You
yeah,
were like,
still a lot of money.
Yeah, it
40
is.
G's, yeah. And it was funny. So I'm number 16, but I have no Margarita came down and
You
coached
keep
me
saying you're
fine.
number 16. You were the number 16 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how you...
I ended up being one. But so I'm warming up. I have no coach until Margarita came down for the last 3 matches. I'm shadowboxing. Everyone's wrestling with their coach. I'm just like shadowboxing. I look like a weirdo. By the way, I didn't think I was going to be in the tournament, so I wore my Brazilian tighties because I don't usually fight or compete in those. I usually wear surf trunks, but I'm like, in case I'm invited, I put my sweatpants over these. So I'm in my basically Speedos, warming up, shadowboxing all by myself. And I look up and there's just only Brazilian girls looking down at me. And I'm like, oh, damn. And one girl goes, hey, come here. And I shouldn't have done it, but, this girl could have been on the cover of a magazine. And I wanted, and she said, hey, como você tá? How are you doing? And my Portuguese was not that good back then. I was like, oh, eu tô bem. I'm good. How are you? And she said, in Portuguese, she said, oh, you're not Brazilian, are you? And I said, no. And she went, and she turned her back and walked. She called me over and then turned me away. It's jacked up. So I'm like, all right, Lister, stop, focus. And then I got through this thing. And then at this moment, I don't know why this is, but the champion gets like 95% of the attention. The guy who took second is equal level of me. Maybe he could beat me a different day. I must admit, I'm not going to say I can never lose to that guy. He's really good. But I have a line. 1,000 people are waiting to meet me and take pictures with me. So I'm still in my Brazilian tighties, and I'm giving guys like, hey, what's up? Hey, and girls, and hey, kids, and take a picture. And after a half hour, I see this girl, like 8 people down, going like, hi, remember me? Hi. And I'm like mental note. Like, so she waited like an hour to meet me, and she finally, with an earshot, she's like, in Portuguese, remember me? Hey, I knew you could do it. She's saying this in Portuguese, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. So she gets up to me, and I'm sure the average guy would have caved into this, but I skipped her just like that, and she had this little puppy dog look with this hurt eyes on her.
Cold-blooded.
That was like
You were the true
my
champion.
moral victory of that day. It was awesome. So